To the fluid-assisted horizontal directional drilling crews that have been so kind to visit my YouTube channel, as well as comment and share out my videos. I really appreciate the help, guys. Appreciate the spreading of the love, as some of you have put in. But I'd like to address some of the comments. First, I'd like to address the fact that, none of y'all seem to believe this has anything to do with fracturing or the hydraulic fracturing. Well, if you'll take the time to look up hydraulic, I'm sure all of y'all understand it's something run by like a hydraulic pump, and that's what these drill rigs are run by, same as the fracking drill rigs, just on a smaller scale. Well, if you'll look up the word fracture, kind of like fracturing, hydraulic fracturing, you'll understand and realize that it means to crack or to break, kind of like breaking an arm or a pinky or a little toe. And I don't think any of us want that to happen to any of us. But when you drill through the hole or drill through the ground or put a drill to your head or even up your butt, you might fracture it. Because even if you're just drilling through a piece of wood or a rock, you are literally fracturing that from the moment the drill bit hits that particular material. So you are fracturing the ground on a small scale on a horizontal, directional, fluid-assisted drill rig. And the reason I say fluid-assisted, because I was probably a horizontal directional driller before most of y'all were even born. And when I first got into it, they called it fluid-assisted drilling. And I understand the water and the bentonite and the gel and all of that keeps the drill stem cool and keeps the sawn in the end of the head drill or cool. I also understand it's utilized to remove the spoils and the material you're fracking and removing from the earth. You can't do it without fracking it or fracturing it. That's how you drill a hole. That's literally the way a hole gets produced. And I don't care where you're putting the hole. So it was called fluid assisted. But it's funny how the industry changes the terminology, because fluid assisted is like water jetting under a driveway, or air jetting, or water jetting or air jetting under a road. That's actually illegal. And the reason it's illegal, because it could create a huge void under the road or under the driveway. And what happens after that is the driveway could cave in. Kind of like a small sinkhole. That's what a sinkhole is. It's a void deep in the earth that all of a sudden the weight causes it to cave in, or as they call it, the overburden collapses. And it's illegal. And it can create little dips in the road, those bumps in life. So fluid assisted was changed to be called horizontal or directional drilling. And it's been around for many, many years, as well as a number of decades. So for those of you who don't think the horizontal directional drilling isn't a form of fracking or fracturing the earth, yes it is. And I don't think our Creator intended for mankind to crack the earth. Because when you do that, yes, you can capture the methane gas through the cracks. But you don't know, once that drill bit's down in the ground, what you're actually cracking or how far the cracks go. And there are natural cracks in the ground, like natural occurring bentonite, the gray clay. Yeah, it's natural occurring, all right. And there are natural cracks. But our Creator never intended man to go down and intentionally crack the earth, because when that methane is released, it goes anywhere it can go. And it can come up through the water. I don't know if y'all have looked at any of the streams that have bubbles in them, that you can literally take your lighter and light the bubble on fire. Just like if you fart, you can light your fart on fire or your ass on fire. So you are fracking or cracking or fracturing the ground. So, and as far as the bentonite, yes, it is natural occurring, like a gray clay, kind of like a cement. All the stuff in a cement are natural resources and natural occurring material from within the earth, that we rape the earth so we have concrete. And I'm not saying we should do away with concrete. I'm just saying they are natural occurring. But so is arsenic. But we know better than to put it in our water. So are the gases. They're natural occurring, but we don't need them in our water. You don't want to drink the stuff, just like I'm sure you wouldn't mix up a bunch of bentonite and take a big old swig of it. So, the natural occurring products aren't always a safe product. I believe that's why there's certain departments within our government that requires warning labels. But I bet many people didn't read the warning label on the bentonite bag. Well, I actually did. I didn't do it at first. I took the industry's word that it was natural occurring, a natural product, and it was safe. But one day, after it was on a Friday, I read the warning label, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And we're breathing this stuff in. So I would advise all of you to read that warning label and abide by what it tells you to do. The protective clothing, the dust mask, the safety glasses. Y'all really should be wearing that stuff. And I watched the other day when this drill rig, or this, as I call it, a fracking rig, just a small version, but bigger than any of the ones I ever ran. I ran a 1620 Vermeer, pretty small machine. But we did a lot of damage with it, and I'm not talking damaging utilities. I'm talking the fracks. Because when I started, it was called fluid assisted, but they changed it to be hydraulic drilling because they didn't want the word fluid assisted in the terminology because that was illegal. Well, back when I started, as you call it, a blowout was not called a blowout. It was called a frack out. And I wonder why they called it a frack out. I also wonder why they changed the terminology to blowout, to make the younger drillers unaware that they are actually fracturing the ground. And when that shit comes back to the top, how much of it's going down deep into the ground through the natural fractures or the fractures that were man-created? And God never intended all this stuff to separate. Our Creator that created this earth and gave it to us to maintain, that sustains our life. And let me tell you guys, water sustains all life. Nothing can sustain itself without clean, drinkable water. Even the trees are dying off because of the contaminants that are in our water, because they suck it up through their roots. So they changed fluid assisted, they changed blowout to frack out to blowout. And to the lady that wants to know how concrete sidewalks got in the wetlands, undoubtedly you weren't born and raised or have never lived in Florida. Florida is a swamp. You've heard of the Everglades. We have wetlands all over the place. It's something called a dredge, or artificial drainage, where they drain off the wetlands in order to get rid of the water. And they drain it off into little canals, or what you might call a stream. And it works. It drains off the land, but then that land gets classified as floodplain. And then that allows cattle and things like that to be put on it. And then 10 or 20 years later, the planning and development divisions will all of a sudden allow you and approve the building on there. And that's where the sidewalks come from. So for you to think that part of Osceola County was not floodplain, you don't know much about our state or Osceola County. I'm a native. I lived in Osceola County for many years. I know a bit about the floodplains, the wetlands, and how wetlands become floodplains, and how 10 years later, after the cows have pooped all over the land and ate the grass and fed us, how all of a sudden they'll chase the cattle off, kind of like they chased the Native Americans off their land that did not build in the wetland. They built and stayed up on the ridges and hunted and fished in the wetlands, sustaining their lives. But in a natural occurring way. So that's how those sidewalks got there. It's called artificial drainage. And using huge dredges, backhoes, maybe even shovels to dig those ditches that drained off the wetlands. So y'all are very unaware of where you're at. And to the wife of the driller about where they're working, you really need to pull up the sinkhole map and realize that most of the state is very sinkhole prone. And the area I live in, very sinkhole prone, because it even makes some statements, if you look deep enough, that this area is almost every lake anywhere around Central Florida is considered a closed-in basin. Nice name for it, but they were all created by a sinkhole that happened to fill with water. Imagine that. A hole fills with water. The question is, what's in the water? And kind of back to the bentonite. There's not a one of you drillers out there that can tell me bentonite is the only product you add into those mixing tanks. Because have you ever heard the word polymer? Trust me, if you do enough drilling in this state, because it's basically sugar sand, very little clay other than the bentonite you're pumping into it, you'll add polymers to try to keep your hole open. You know, down that drill stem, the hole doesn't always want to stay open in Florida. Now, if you're from up north and you're drilling through rock and clays, yeah, the hole stays open a whole lot better than it does in Florida. And believe me, I read the bag called the polymer bag. Not a nice product to pump into the ground. And as far as that recycling center that's on site that recycles the bentonite and the spoils that come back, and the lining between the two pumping systems and the recycling center, and then no lining of that hole that the sand drops back into, trust me, that sand is not just sand. It's got the polymers and the bentonite in it. Don't understand why it wasn't lined, but I understand the frack outside of it too, because we used to run around with the pumpings or the vac systems to pump that crap or vac that crap up before it became a large spill, because it's a real nightmare to clean up, and it doesn't just go away. You can vacuum all you want, you ain't getting it all, and the next time it rains it becomes very slick, and it's a liability when somebody slips and falls on it. But back to the sinkholes. Y'all are unaware at how quickly a collapsed sinkhole happens. You know, there's 4 or 5 different classifications of sinkholes. One of them's a collapsed sinkhole, and that's what Central Florida is known for. You know, it has swallowed buildings. A year or so ago, a man was sleeping in his bedroom, and a sinkhole opened up under his house. It didn't take his house. The concrete in his bedroom fell in and ate him. His bed and everything went down that hole, and they never saw him again. Well, I've done a lot of things in my life, and I'm a guy that has actually seen with my own eyes, literally seen it open. I had a sinkhole open on an adjoining property where we used to live, right behind my house. He was simply drilling a potable water well, you know, a little 4-inch well, pumping purely water down in the hole. There was no additives, you know, they're putting down a steel casing, couple 100 feet deep, and in the process, a 30-foot wide sinkhole happened. I ran over there. The drill rig was probably about 50 foot long with the big crane sticking in the air, and they were pounding this pipe in, cracking the earth. And it happened to crack through a layer that opened a sinkhole. Luckily for the man running it that ended up in the bottom of that hole, there was a garden hose attached to it, and he grabbed a hold of it. And I helped him out of the hole, while that drill rig was basically standing on end with the front tires 12 foot in the air. So please, you can call me stupid, you can call me F-tard, you can call me whatever you want. I'm just glad you're calling me. So, I've seen 3 sinkholes open right before my eyes. another drill rig out on 27 disappeared in the blink of an eye, and it was so deep they couldn't get the drill rig out of the hole, so they just buried it. Yeehaw for our water. But I also saw one of them very large track hose. It's in one of my videos, pulling the little track hoe out. I saw one of them in the Hunters Creek area disappear in the blink of an eye. But because we reacted very quickly, we were able to get that one out. You know, we had pans, bulldozers, and other track hoes on site, and we pulled it out, and they just covered the hole up. Another undocumented sinkhole. So when you look at that sinkhole map, you got to realize a lot of sinkholes were documented, but I bet you even more of them are undocumented. So you need to realize where your little hubby's working. If he's working in Central Florida, he might be swallowed up by a sinkhole. And trust me, I don't wish that on anybody. I'm just trying to make you aware of the dangers that your husband's in. You know, because I care for people just about as much as I care for our earth. You know, Mother Earth, the thing that sustains all life, the things that provides our means of living. And let me remind you all, water sustains all life. It sustains the trees that give us the air. The wetlands and our trees are the two filters that need not be plugged up with the contaminants from directional drilling or the fluids that are being leaked when these machines almost tip over in the wetlands because they won't abide by the rules and put the planking or absorption pads, as they call them, beneath them. And trust me, guys, those absorption pads, yeah, they keep the machine from sinking, but the crap that falls off the tracks is called heavy grease. And when you pump grease into those tracks and on all those articulating joints on that machine, that shit clumps up and falls off. And that shit sinks to the bottom of our wetlands. It doesn't get absorbed by those wood planks. And even if it does, they just flip those things over and reuse them and tear them apart, and all that shit gets left behind. So y'all really need to rethink what you're doing as a job. Y'all might want to consider what job actually stands for, because you know, there's jobs and then there's careers. And our politicians have careers that pay very well. But job, J-O-B, actually stands for just over broke. So you might want to look at your own life, take a look at yourself in the mirror, and wonder what you might be breathing, because one day there's something called disease, illness, and disorder. And one day you may, or somebody you love, somebody you care about, may end up with one of these diseases, illness, or disorders. You know, like a cancer, you know, because there's breast cancer, there's anal cancer, and there's brain cancer. And there's a whole bunch of other cancers. They just rename them for whatever body part you got cancer in. Cancer is basically a tumor that's caused by a lot of the shit we do. You know, and they like changing the terminology for a reason. You know, I am a stupid man because I smoke cigarettes. But back when I started smoking cigarettes, the warning label used to talk about lung cancer. You know, the Surgeon General warned you that it may cause lung cancer. But it's funny, they changed the warning label on the cigarette box. It says, and I'm reading it, Surgeon General warning, smoking by pregnant women may result in fetal injury, premature birth, and low birth rate. And that's really all it says. It doesn't say anything about lung cancer anymore. I wonder why they would change those words. Could it be so stupid men like me keep smoking because I can't get pregnant? So it keeps me smoking because they changed the warning label that it only affects pregnant women. Really? It only affects pregnant women. So I hope y'all are catching on to what I'm trying to point out to you, that you were calling me stupid, ignorant, F-tard, and all these great names. And name calling really shows some things about the people doing the name calling. But y'all can stay where you're at. You can keep snorting your gray clay and keep pumping it deep into the ground. You can keep adding the polymers to keep the hole open, to keep that job of yours. And to I guess y'all's boss, the one y'all look up to, and share out my post, and I really appreciate the shares. But in one of his posts, he required y'all to take down all your pictures along the route of the pipeline. And he didn't just require it, he threatened your job if you didn't take them down. Because this is real stuff. I wonder what he meant about the real stuff. Could your pictures actually have shown some OSHA problems? You know, the occupational safety and hazard people? Because I guarantee you my videos do. The industry and your bosses are putting you in harm's way while they sit in their truck, or they stand 100 feet away, or they stand in their fancy office, you know, the towers of the world. Why you do the dirt work. And you work with your hands, and with the sweat of your brow, you make your money. While we are all making them filthy rich, you know, the profiteering of the world. So y'all can make the statement that this gas and oil is going to be pumped, but you don't realize the dangers you're putting in, because my videos showed some really stupid things being done, and people telling people to get down in there and stand between a backhoe, stand under the boom of a backhoe while that thing's pulling the 30,000 pound track hoe out. And shit does happen. Just like sinkholes. Large collapse sinkholes happen in the blink of an eye. If you'll do a little homework on sinkholes, you'll be able to verify what I'm saying. So I just wanted to reach back to you and thank you for your comments. Thank you for visiting my YouTube channel and my Weekend page, as well as my Mitch Allen page. Because all of that is great, and it promotes my stuff. So I really do appreciate it. And you can promote my stupid side, as I just called myself stupid for smoking. But let me tell you guys, I know a bit about the ground, and I know a lot about the things we shouldn't do to it. We need to respect the earth, the gift from our Creator. You know, the one that you live on, the one you walk on, and yeah, the one we all drive our gas, oil-driven vehicles on. Because we ain't never doing away with our vehicles, and I'm not trying to do away with the vehicle. But there are better ways to extract the oil and gas than to crack the entire earth in every state and pollute everybody's water. Because even if you don't drink water, or maybe you're one of those that think, oh, well, I drink bottled water, or oh, I have city water. It all comes from the ground, whether you realize it or not. And maybe you don't drink water, but maybe you drink scotch on the rocks and don't realize where the rocks come from. So I'm just saying, guys, y'all should really think about your comments before you put them out there. You should think about that boss that threatens your job, because I believe that's illegal to threaten somebody's job for a photo they put on Facebook that might incriminate the company you work for putting you in a very dangerous position. And if they're not providing dust mask and safety glass and proper protective gear when you're mixing this natural occurring bentonite up, you might want to read the warning label and read up on the OSHA rules, because I promise you guys, they are putting y'all in very dangerous places. You can disagree with everything I'm saying. That's your choice. That's one of the great things about America. We have the right to freedom of speech. We have the right to make choices. And I made the choice after reading some stuff and reading the polymer bags and the bentonite bags that I didn't want to be breathing that crap in anymore. You know, you really need to think about how the changes come, how the terminology gets changed, and how important the water and the air is. And you really ought to realize that the additives that they're adding into the large hydraulic fracking rigs, they are adding lots of carcinogens, and they're pumping it deep beneath the earth, claiming it can't get into our water. Well, you should go talk to some of the residents that once had clean, drinkable water, that now their water can be set on fire because there's methane in the water. Now, I know y'all don't think y'all are creating any of that by cracking the earth and fracturing the earth. but I promise you, it's true. And one day, you're going to look back, probably from a hospital bed or standing next to a hospital bed with somebody that you know, maybe even love, that has cancer or some kind of debilitating terminal illness. And trust me, guys, I don't wish that on anybody. I really don't. If I saw you down at the bottom of a sinkhole, I would do my best to get you out, because I have mutual respect and common courtesy for everyone. And you can disrespect me all you want. But you need to think about some of the things I'm saying, because I'm not a nut. I do my homework. And I've been around long enough to have done some things that I figured out weren't so nice things to the earth, the thing that sustains all life. So I hope all of y'all have a blessed day, and I hope you enjoy the day that He has created, and we should all rejoice in it. So, again, thanks for commenting, thanks for sharing, thanks for visiting my YouTube channel. Please visit often, please share often, and keep your comments coming. Y'all have a great day. From Mitch Allen, we can.